back in the day, if you bought a Chevrolet with an SS badge, you knew it stood for something special. SS means super sport, and those vehicles were typically pretty fast. But then over the years, it got applied to a range of vehicles. There were things like the Camaro, but then you could also buy an HHR SS, a Malibu SS, and even a Trailblazer SS. Well, now for the first time, you can buy an SS that's all electric. This is the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer EV SS, and in this video, we're gonna find out if this car is worthy of the Super Sport badge. Now we'll start with an exterior walk around where I think the Blazer EV is a pretty handsome vehicle. They do transform it just a little bit for this SS model, but not like in a completely different way. It still looks like the conventional Blazer SS, but we do have some sportier touches. We do have our red SS logo, which looks interesting when you compare it to the habanero orange, which is a great color, but red and orange is kind of not my thing. They do offer a red on this car as well, but it is a little bit pricey. This is a really nice wide looking vehicle. You can see that we have that that light bar that kind of stretches across the front, emphasizing the width. It does do a really nice lighting animation as well. Ignore the flickering, that's just because of the camera. I love the lighting animations on this car. It actually lights up around the Chevy logo as well, which is blacked out because of course this is an SS model. We do have these really nice 22-inch wheels. They come standard on the SS. We have Brembo brakes as well, 6-piston calipers as standard. You can get an all black wheel if you want, but it's almost $3,000, so I don't necessarily think I would do that. We've got some black cladding down here, black along the wheel arches as well, and then a black roof that kind of pinches this car and makes it look a little bit lower than it actually is. We do have this giant charge door as well. I'm going to go ahead and show you this. I'm not a huge fan of these big motorized charge doors. I would much rather prefer to just have a manual one, but we do still have the CCS connector, no NACS Tesla connector as of yet. And then here at the back, nothing too crazy. We do have just kind of your regular looking Blazer rear end. We've got the Blazer logo with the kind of Ultium badge letting us know that this is an all electric Blazer. But over here, we know that this is an SS model that happens to have all-wheel drive. Now here on the inside, you'll see that Chevy has made some specific changes for the SS trim, but not that many extensive ones. We have the same seat that you're going to get in a standard Blazer. You don't get like a sport bucket seat. It says SS here on the headrest, but it is embossed. It's a little bit small. And this is the standard color that you're going to be getting on this car. Yes, as wild as it is. So you kind of have this suede material here. These are heated and ventilated seats with lumbar. We've got kind of a cloth portion up here. This orange piece is going to be leather, and then we have this gray leather down here with this orange stitching, and then we also have orange seat belts, which is pretty wild here on this car. If you don't want this interior, because I can't imagine why you wouldn't want this interior, maybe you're not getting the orange paint or you want blue or red or something else. The only other interior you can get is Adrenaline Red, which is this bright red seat. Now that actually has more leather than this. It doesn't have like the cloth elements. I'm not really sure why this interior has the cloth and the suede and the red doesn't, but kind of interesting that your two color options for this interior are both very, very bold, crazy colors. So do with that information what you will. The rest of the interior pretty much is going to be just a Blazer EV. So we do have the SS logo down here on the steering wheel with some orange stitching that matches the rest of the orange accents. This is a Super Cruise steering wheel, as you can tell up here and up here with our little face camera. So this does have hands-free driving on the highway. We've got a digital gauge cluster that is 11 inches. You can configure that here. So you can have a full color Google map. You can have this screen with kind of your driving safety information. You can have a very clean display with just your speed. You can have more information, so it'll actually time your 0 to 60 runs. It says my best is 3.1 seconds, although I do think that this timer is a little little bit optimistic. I've been using my race box, and it definitely did not tell me that I did the 0 to 60 run that quickly. And then you can kind of just have your normal gauge here. Standard 17.7-inch touchscreen. I actually love how this touchscreen works. It's really fast. It's really responsive. We do have some buttons down here for fan speed, for temperature control, that also always live on this ribbon right here, which is super easy. I really don't have any problem with this being on the touchscreen. I actually prefer this to what was in the Hyundai Ioniq 5 that I drove last week, with one exception. It does not have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You've heard about that in these GM EVs. I still believe that that was a mistake, but everything else is really good. We've got amazing cameras that you can configure. Super great there. We've got the Google Assistant, so you can ask it questions. All of that is actually really good. We've got a digital rear view mirror. Chevy loves putting these in cars. We've got a good amount of storage, very deep right here with our USB ports if you want to charge up your phone, because no CarPlay, as I said. Cup holders here, wireless charger right here. We actually have a little tray in front of here too, so you can put a phone down here and put a phone here, so two people can have their phones. Only one of them is a wireless charger though. And then we do actually have, unlike the Hyundai Ioniq 5 that I just drove, optionally, it's about $1,500, we do have a panoramic roof here, and this does open. So it is not one of those roofs that's just glass that doesn't open. We also have an 8-speaker Bose audio system as standard. It sounds okay. Definitely not the greatest I've heard, but not bad for a non-premium car. And if I didn't mention it, this car does not have a stop-start button. You didn't see me hit one as I got in. Just sit in the seat, put your foot on the brake. And I love how Chevy has all of these controls here on the touchscreen. Super easy. If you're getting out of the car and you want the AC to stay on, you can click this button and it will remain on for 60 minutes, which is really cool. You can lock it after that, so great for pets, great for if you're just running an errand and your significant other wants to stay in the car. And then if you want to turn it off, or if you just want to do that automatically, you can just get out of the car if you don't have this turn on, or you can just click vehicle off. I love how simple and intuitive and easy Chevy made that, although I do wish that the battery percentage showed up more, not just when you turn off the car. It always tells you how many miles you have left, but I'd like to see that as a percentage more of the time. And now in terms of rear seat comfort, the Blazer is really good, if I'm being honest. Tons of leg room back here. I just have so much space to sprawl out. No hump here in the middle. The only thing I'd say Chevy cheaped out on was I don't get a little pocket here on the driver's seat. Weird choice, but it's fine because we do have air vents back here, USB ports, heated seats, and we have a nice armrest with a cup holder. There aren't too many other things that I would really demand back here other than a pocket. And then we don't have auto up and auto down windows back here. For the price that this car costs, that's a weird thing that GM tends to do. And last but not least, let's check out the trunk space, where the Blazer SS offers about 25.5 cubic feet of space. Really not too bad back here. I was kind of expecting the cargo area to be a little bit longer given how big this vehicle is, but I think they maybe dedicated a little bit more of that space to the rear seat, which is completely fine with me because 25.5 is really not that bad for this segment. We do have a little bit more underneath the floor here. No front trunk to speak of. And the only other thing that I wish there was back here is maybe like some cargo hooks, maybe a little latch to be able to fold down the seats a little bit easier. You can just reach forward like so, grab these. It's going to get you about 59 cubic feet of space, so really not too bad at all, but you do have to reach just a little bit to go ahead and grab those seats. So small things I'd like to improve here on the practicality of the Blazer SS, but this is really a crossover that you could live with a family very easily. Now let's get behind the wheel of the first all-electric SS model from Chevy, the most powerful SS model from Chevy, and I believe I'm right in saying this, the quickest SS model ever from 0 to 60, because Chevy is claiming that this electric crossover can do 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.4 seconds. We've got 615 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. Now that is only when you use WOW, the wide open watts feature, which unlocks all of that power. I do have that activated right now. I've had a few issues launching this car. It doesn't seem to want to give full power all of the time. There's no like signifier that launch control is active, so we're just going to hit the brake, hit the accelerator fully, and see if it gives it all to us. Yep, that was it. There it is. Jolt off the line, and that was 60 in 3.47 seconds. So a little bit slower than Chevy claims, but still a ridiculously remarkable 0 to 60 time with the wide open watts feature. Now, I mentioned that you don't get full power if you don't use the wow feature, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for just a second. Now we only have 515 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. Still a lot, but when I put my foot down, it kind of surges rather than jolts you with the power. There's none of that, oh my goodness, the power just kicked in. It's a little bit more relaxed, or I should say significantly more relaxed when you don't have wide open watts. Now, a fun experiment is going to be to find out what the 0 to 60 time would be with only 515 horsepower. And because we can just do that, let's go ahead with wide open watts turned off. Oh my gosh. It does not give you the power. It literally goes, okay, whoop, and then we go off. That was 0 to 60 in 3.79 seconds. So definitely a little bit of a gap there when you don't have wide open watts. So we'll go ahead and turn it back on because we like powerful things here on the CarBuzz YouTube channel. So it's definitely a quick car with this much power, but so many EVs are fast. Like, let's be real. Being quick in a straight line is kind of not the only hallmark of being a good performance EV at the moment, because so many companies are able to rip off 3.5 second 0 to 60 times. We really have to ask ourselves the question of whether or not this really deserves a super sport badge. Now, we do have some other upgrades to the whole package. The suspension is 30% stiffer than a standard Blazer EV. It's not too stiff. It's still regular dampers. We don't have hydraulic suspension or adaptive dampers or anything. It's just regular old suspension made a little bit stiffer here on the SS model. And as I whip it through the corners, there's definitely some body roll. This is not like a buckled down sports car experience. It's no Camaro SS. They have sharpened the steering as well for this SS model, but I'm not going to go ahead and say it's the best I've ever felt in an EV. I just got out of driving the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which I kid you not, really felt like I was driving a hot hatch that just happened to be in disguise as an electric crossover. And the Blazer SS is no Ioniq 5N in that category. The steering is pretty light even in the sport mode. I have my Z mode up so I can adjust my steering. It's in the sport setting. I have my brake feel in sport with no regen. The motor sound is in sport, so it's a little bit more of like a pumped in noise. I'll go ahead and floor it now so you can hear it again. You get a little bit of that. I can turn that off. Yeah, it just doesn't really give me like this kind of loud roar of acceleration that I would kind of want from an SS car, even in the sport setting. It certainly has nothing on Hyundai's end sound modes where you can make it sound like a gas car or a turbine engine or what have you. It's really nothing quite like that. Really kind of nobody has something exactly like that. But I do wish that Chevy maybe would have leaned a little bit more into the lunacy of making like a crazy acceleration sound on a product like this with an SS badge. We do also have a performance pack. It's $395, so it's nothing too crazy. It basically gets you Continental summer tires. It gets you brake rotors with reduced fade and performance brake lines. I mean, sure, if you want summer tires, like, it's really not a bad price to pay for that. Not really sure how many people are going to be taking their Blazer SS to the track anyway. We do have some pretty darn good brakes. Brembo 6-piston calipers up front, which is really not too bad. I mean, you do need a lot of stopping power on such a big vehicle like this.
And I'm not going to go ahead and say that this isn't a fun car. Like, I'm having some good time. I have it in the competitive mode, so the traction control is very reduced. It is not interfering with what I want to do here as I go a little too fast into this corner and power out of it. Yeah, it's a really fun driving experience. And, I think Chevy maybe just had a bad draw that I had this car directly after the car that I called the most fun EV that I've ever driven, that being the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. And I just don't think that there's much that can compare to that. And this definitely doesn't either. I could only imagine if Chevy were to copy the formula that Hyundai did with that car and give this car the fake gear changes so that you could simulate, gears, and then also the simulated sound, because Chevy has such a deep catalog of engines that you could pull from. You could make this sound like a V6 Camaro, which had a really nice exhaust note. You could make this sound like a GMC Cyclone. I know it's a different GM brand. You could make it sound like a Camaro SS with an LS1 or an LT1 or whatever engine you want it to sound like. You could simulate all of that here. So the performance potential of a car like this is really high because we already have the speed. This car is as fast as I really want it to be. And I'm not saying I want it to drive that much sportier either, because if I'm being honest, I think that the Hyundai might be a little too aggressive for some people. Some people who are just looking for a comfortable daily that can, at the, moment's notice, send them into oblivion, into the, ahead of the car that they're trying to pass. And this definitely does that. This is arguably the better daily driver to the Ioniq 5N. It doesn't thrill me in the way that the Hyundai does, but it's pretty nice. It's very comfortable. We've got Super Cruise as standard. I can take this on a highway road trip. I can actually go pretty far because we've got a big battery in here. 102 kilowatt hours, enabling 303 miles of range. And that's not even that big of a hit compared to just a rear wheel drive Blazer RS, which does 324 miles. So you're not even sacrificing that much to get the SS performance. The one thing I'll say is the charging speeds could be a little bit better. 190 kilowatt peak, and you're not going to be peaking at that all the time, adds about 78 miles in 10 minutes of charging. There are many vehicles in this segment that can charge faster than that. So that's not great, but the range really is. There aren't really any performance vehicles like, these crossovers that kind of gain all of this performance, with SS or whichever nameplate you want to say, and keep a 300-mile range. So if you aren't that crazy about performance and the speed is enough to entertain you, but you still want to keep the livability, a 300-mile range, the Blazer SS is actually a great package for that.
That's going to wrap up our time with the 2025 Chevrolet Blazer EV SS. And it's time to sum up this car, which is going to be a little bit complicated because there are things that I really like about this vehicle. I like the styling. The performance is really good, but I like that they didn't let that compromise too much on the range. You still get over 300 miles, which is something you really can't say for a lot of other vehicles in this segment. I wish the interior felt a little bit more premium, although you have some great technology in there, but no Apple CarPlay, but you do get Super Cruise. So again, things I like, things I don't. And the thing is, this thing has a very nice price advantage over pretty much anything in its competitive price bracket. So anything with 600 horsepower, you're looking at the Kia EV6 GT, the aforementioned Hyundai Ioniq 5N, the Jeep Wagoneer S. This thing is cheaper than all of them. $60,600 is the starting price, but you get a $7,500 federal tax credit on this because it is built in North America. Now, that could have changed by the time you watch this video if you know what's going on with the current geopolitical climate. But as of right now, you can qualify for a tax credit, bringing this thing into the low $50,000 range, where I think it is actually an amazing value. Now, this one that we've been driving has some options on it. It's about $64,000 after destination when you get the performance package and the sunroof and an optional color and all of that stuff. But I do think that the value is there if you are looking for one of these fast crossovers. I think the thing that this thing does does better than everything else. It may not be the most fun in its segment, but it definitely doesn't skimp on practicality or livability with that 300-mile range. And if that is more important to you than the outright raw driving experience, I think that the Blazer SS might be a vehicle that you want to look at. Now, let me know in the comments, would you consider the Blazer SS over something like the Ioniq 5N, the EV6 GT, or the Wagoneer S? I want to hear from you. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be alerted when our latest videos come out. I'll see you next time.